Recently, I've been trying to reconnect with myself by kind of detoxing from social media and all of its overstimulation. And whilst I rediscovered my love for outdoor sports and hobbies that I'd forgotten about, gaming has remained a solid pillar of my free time. But something changed over the years, and I increasingly found myself just sitting in front of my PC and being exhausted, not knowing exactly what to do, and I eventually ended up doing nothing, rather than actually playing anything. So why shouldn't I try to reconnect with gaming as well? And I eventually asked myself one simple question. What made gaming so special to me, especially when I was growing up? Because of that, I came across the genius idea to play the games that I enjoyed back then. And a major part of my interest in gaming has been shaped by the Assassin's Creed series. So I ended up installing Assassin's Creed 2. And you may ask yourself now, why 2 and not 1? And simply put, 2 is the game that I've been always looking at in the shelves of GameStop, and I eventually convinced my grandma to buy it for me. And honestly, who can blame me? I mean, the cover art is freaking dope and it has
Ezio! Ezio Auditore!
the goat on it.
Dylan! You son of a bitch.
It just has this undeniable aura about it. And I remember that I couldn't look away as a kid, and to be honest, today I'm still completely hooked by it. But besides that, 2 is the game that I think of when somebody mentions Assassin's Creed. So I hope that answers your question. So when I first booted up the game, everything felt so familiar, and by that I mean the ambience, the setting and the movement. Even if the movement can feel janky at times and the game itself is far from flawless, it's still polished enough that it doesn't bother me.
Hot diggity dog! This place is magnificent.
And eventually I came to a point where I was standing on top of a building and listened to the soundtrack and just let everything sink in for a moment. But then something snapped. Between all of the nostalgia, the gameplay and the graphics, which both in my opinion hold up pretty well, I couldn't help but feel a bit of sadness and grief. Not because I thought of a time that is long gone, but because I was just sad at what Assassin's Creed has become. Back in the day, every entry felt like it had so much weight, and they were able to generate meaningful excitement. But nowadays, they fail to deliver what they used to. Not only does the storytelling suck and the facial animations look terrible, but they've even lost the ability to captivate people just by the looks of their cover art. The very thing that 10-year-old me was already stunned by, and present me knows about the meaningful impact that a cover can have. But most importantly, once you were hooked and actually started playing the game, they offered a handcrafted world that delivered something the empty ones of the newer games never will. And with that, I'm talking about the phenomenon known as Anemoia. For anyone that doesn't know what Anemoia is, it's basically the feeling of nostalgia of a time or a place you've never actually known. Or in this case, since it's Italy in the Renaissance, you never even were born in. And I think that most games up until Syndicate were actually able to portray some form of Anemoia. Some definitely more than others, sure, but they were still able to. Now, I don't want to downplay any of your interests if you enjoy the newer games, and I still think that you can definitely have fun with them, but I just have to draw the line, because in my opinion, since Ubisoft and the Assassin's Creed series started going down this open world RPG path, something died with it. The games showed that they kind of lost what Assassin's Creed was all about.
What happened to you, Dylan? You used to be somebody I could trust.
And that's why I have to draw this line between Syndicate and Origins, because after that it just didn't feel like Assassin's Creed anymore. Of course, technically speaking, they're still part of the series, but I just couldn't see them as such, and I had to think of them as being in their own distinct corner. To be fair for a second, I did only play Odyssey.
You got me.
And even then only to a degree, and mainly because I'm a big fan of Greek mythology, but the newer titles just felt off and lackluster, and they didn't spark any interest in me to play them. Of course, I kept up with all of the drama, the reviews and the behind the scenes sales, but I was and still am damn sure that I won't touch any of those open world games again. And in comparison, the older titles always had a distinct identity going for them, something that you could visualize just from looking at the cover arts alone. 3 had the chaos of the American Revolutionary War, Black Flag had the ultimate pirate setting, Unity was built with the co-op system in mind, and Syndicate gave you that feeling of building up your Peaky Blinders street gang in London. And on top of that, all of them had a fantastic soundtrack that accompanied those ideas. And that's why I have to point out Assassin's Creed 2 once again. Not only does it have a fantastic story and great world building, but it's seamlessly underlined by the music of Jesper Kid, which adds the perfect amount of immersion into the historical age that you're playing in. And that music alone plays an enormous part in creating that feeling of Anemoia.
I mean, it's terrific, right?
That combined with the well-crafted atmosphere, buildings that were designed with the climbing system in mind, and believable characters that acted realistically. Every city had its own color palette and portrayed its own set of emotions. Florence felt warm, golden and romantic. Venice felt cool, mysterious and alive at night. Every corner felt well thought out, rather than just being a copy-pasted asset from an engine.
Terrific, right?
And on top of that, you really felt the world changing around you as Ezio grew older and the overall tone of the story shifted. Something that is completely missing in the newer titles. Because Ubisoft traded the intimacy of those small and well thought out environments for larger scaled but lifeless maps. They traded interesting characters for lifeless ones, with facial animations that don't even look human.
I will make you feel the pain of those you have touched.
No, you'll tell me where it is.
I do that, you'll have no reason to let me live.
So you won't tell me where it is.
No.
Then you're of no use to me at all.
Nice job, team.
And they traded the old movement system for a climbing system, if you can even call it one, that gets rid of all the depth that they've been previously building up. I mean, you can literally climb any surface now with zero effort whatsoever. And honestly, it's a shame that a game that's nearly 2 decades old holds up better in terms of artistic direction and soul than a game that's released in the last couple of years. And to be fair, this isn't just a problem that's only unique to Assassin's Creed. I think that the hyper-realistic approach that gaming studios nowadays are going for has been the worst decision that they could have ever made. Because when you chase photorealism, that distinct artistic recognition is completely lost. In my opinion, there are way too many games coming out today that simply look way too much alike, especially when so many developers are using Unreal Engine 5 now. For me, the perfect era was back when developers tried to give you this illusion of realism, but you could still clearly see that it is just a game. And I think that with that, they kind of achieved the perfect balance. But honestly, I think that's a topic worthy of its own video, so I won't go down that rabbit hole yet. I just think it's important to mention, because in my opinion, with this whole idea comes a great loss of identity. And coming back to Ubisoft, it feels like they completely have lost the vision they once had. And they're desperately trying to revive any kind of magic that the older titles once had. But it just won't work, because the philosophy they follow nowadays is completely different. Today, every Ubisoft game feels kind of the same, just with another coat of paint slapped onto it. I mean, the term Ubisoft formula doesn't come out of thin air. The games are explicitly tailored around you spending as much time in them as humanly possible. They're throwing the stupidest, most useless, boring side quests into your face just to extend your playtime. Or maybe they're even trying to trigger some kind of FOMO, making you feel like you can't leave yet because there's still so much to do. And I think I'm at an age now where I appreciate a maybe shorter and more linear game design, which actually values your time and gives you room to breathe in the atmosphere, rather than a massive scaled open world that's just bloated with stuff to give you this illusion of depth when in reality it's nothing but nonsense. So coming back to the question from the beginning, what actually made gaming special to me? And I think it was the escape that it used to offer. And to be honest, I always hated the word escape because of the stereotype that is connected to it. I used to feel like I was being accused of ignoring reality. But now that I'm older and I've put more thought into it, it was actually just that. But only because games used to have the capacity to fully immerse you. Back then you were hooked by the brilliant stories and the well-coordinated game design, but now they just try to suck you dry like a leech. Of course, that's mainly because of the big corporations behind those studios, so I'm aware of that, so I'm excluding indie developers and games, the rare exceptions of games that are still made with that kind of passion. And at the end of the day, I'm sure that I'm not only speaking for myself, but for many out there as well, when I say that I'm just glad that these older titles still exist and offer us a fantastic world that are worth to escape to. A world in which, even despite knowing the outcome of the story, we can still climb to the highest rooftop, look out over to the horizon, and share a moment with two brothers who remind us of what this series and gaming itself once used to be.
It is a good life we lead, brother.
Best. Never change.
And may it never change us.